Hello, and thank you for joining me for part two of Igniting Your Joy. In part two, we will be talking about diving for joy. You will recall in part one, we talked about reaching for joy. And the way we did that is to use an external stimulus, such as imagination or fantasizing about an event that would then create that joy from within. Using that external stimulus is a good way to get started on training your body to experience joy. But in this particular part two, we're going to be talking about diving for joy. This means that we're going to be actually training ourselves to develop joy from within without relying on an outside stimulus to do that. Why is that important? Well, it's important because if you have ever caught yourself saying that when I go on this vacation, I'll be a lot more happier. I'll have a lot less stress. I can't wait to get out of here because, I just can't wait to get this week over and done with. What you're saying is that I need an external stimulus to be able to allow myself to experience joy. And, things could happen along the way of that journey that can cause you a lot of stress, which means that you are creating a lot of anxiety in your body, which means that you are depleting your energy reserves. You are also accelerating your aging. You are creating more cortisol in your body. Therefore, you're not getting much sleep. All of those things kind of come to bear when you are experiencing something that you're saying that it is dependent on an outside factor that will create joy in my body. Today, we want to be able to shift and transition out of that at your own pace, of course, to be able to create that joy from within. So there's a technique we do that. So before we get started on the program, I just want you to take a look at this particular video. And then I'd like to you to type in your comments in the comments section on this, right? So here you go. Now, what did you think about that video? Did you actually realize, and most people do, of course, realize that this video is made up of two different soundtracks, but the same scene? So it's the same scene playing, but the music is different. The background music is different. And so if you have experienced stress when the music first began in the first half of that particular video clip, you're not alone. A lot of people actually project that that individual sitting in the taxi cab is experiencing a lot of stress. And in the second video, when you change the music background to a little bit more soothing background in terms of soundscape, people feel a lot more calmer. They see everything going on around them or in that video as a symphony of things that are moving quickly, but they're very gentle and flowing. Some have even remarked in the workshops that I put together, some have even remarked that they sense that that individual sitting in the cab is experiencing peace. And, those are some very important observations. Like what is your observation when you look at the two videos? It'll be similar along these lines. And one very important aspect of this video, as you experience this, is whatever you're feeling on the inside is really a reflection of what you're perceiving on the outside. And something like music or noise or chatter or an external stimulus can affect the internal process of generating chemicals in your body that will either allow you to experience anti-aging, rejuvenating hormones, or accelerate your aging and prolong the chronic conditions in your body. So what we're trying to say here is that emotions are actually your inner soundtrack. It depends on what soundtrack is active in this very moment for you that becomes your actual experience. So whatever's happening outside of you and how you perceive it is what's going to go on inside of you. Now, there could be some trouble beyond you or some anxiety that's happening around you, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to create anxiety within you. It depends on how you manage how you perceive that. Think of first responders, for example. First responders do not panic, do not get anxious when they come across an accident scene. It's because they're trained not to do that. They're trained to keep their faculties intact and to be able to address the situation. Wouldn't it be nice if you were able to move through life in that way, where things are going on around you, but you are very steady, composed, and being able to kind of summon all of your intellect to be able to address the situation at hand? Imagine the kind of service you could give, provide others who are in need of your help. Imagine the leadership potential you would have if you took a challenging situation, maintained calm and poise, and were able to navigate through that in a staunch leadership manner that people would say, okay, you know what, this guy knows what he's doing, or this woman knows what she's doing. I think we need to follow her, follow him. So that is an important aspect, is to keep in mind that your emotions are actually your inner soundtrack that actually determine your outer experience. So when there's something going on outside of you, there's a check into your emotions. Okay, what emotions am I experiencing right now? Am I being drawn up into this anxiety because others are anxious? Am I being drawn up in that? And if I am, then that's a self-awareness piece that's very important. Then you can arrest that emotion and replace it. And replace it using the technique we showed you on part one, where you recall recall an event that creates a certain emotion. So the question is, why are we diving for joy? So what is important? Well, we just talked about the fact that the outer experience really reflects on the inner experience. So your outer experience is not what's going on outside of you, but how you perceive what's going on outside of you. That's a very important thing. Two people could be standing in the same street corner, witnessing the same thing. One of them could respond differently from the other, right? And you've seen that happen. We've all seen that happen. So the important aspect is how you experience the outside event becomes your inner experience. The second thing that's very important to be able to learn to dive for joy is that you can actually control your inner joy. You can actually manage it as a matter of fact. So you can if you're experiencing anxiety, if you recall an emotion or an event that gives you joy, you can slowly, with practice, replace that completely and very quickly. And we with practice, 5 to 15 minutes a day. And all it takes is you doing the practice that we did in the first session for 5 to 15 minutes a day. That was your homework. That was the takeaway for you from last session. If you do that, you will learn how to do that very quickly, and you'll be able to respond very, very quickly. That is still using an external stimulus to help supplant any adverse emotional response. Nevertheless, it's a very important tool to keep, and I use it as well all the time. Okay. So one of the things that's important is that with practice, we can maintain inner joy no matter what's happening around us, because your body will actually tell you when you're out of sync. when you're actually not experiencing joy. Because if you train your body to always experience joy, the body will become accustomed to that, and anything that's not joy will look like it's strange to you. So it'll flag it to you automatically. So let's talk about the 4 steps in diving for joy. The first step is obviously to reach for the joy. It's a practice to reach for joy. This is where we use an external stimulus to create inner joy. For example, recalling an event or fantasizing about an event that creates that feeling of love, joy, gratitude, appreciation. So it's a recalling of an event or an emotion using an outside stimulus. The next step for diving for joy is to actually immerse yourself in that particular event that you recall or fantasize about by using all 5 senses to experience it. So it's almost like a 360 degree experience with all five senses open. This is how the natives in certain Aborigines, I should say, in certain parts of the world, create rain. Is they actually experience rain and feel it. And this is how the rain starts. Because you're creating that vibration and energy. That is essentially the power that's within all of us right now. And it combines with the power of trust and belief with this technique that I'm sharing with you. And they will all come together for you. So we want to step to immersing ourselves in the imaginary scene by applying all 5 senses. I'll walk you through these things. I'll guide you through that in the practice we will do shortly after this. The third step in this process is to now allow all the pictures and the imaginations and your senses to fade away slowly in the background. Like you imagine the picture that you've created in your mind's eye, which is giving you a lot of joy, and you allow it to slowly fade away to darkness, but you keep the emotions elevated and intact. So you maintain the emotions, but you fade away the actual stimulus that created that emotion, so that all you're left with is just a feeling of joy without regard to what's causing that joy. This is the critical step in being able to create and dive for joy. It is one of those things where once let's say, for example, I have a piece of fruit, mango, and I'm feeling sad, and I eat a mango and it makes me feel amazing. So now what I've done is, the way our brain works is it associates that mango with feeling good, which means that if you don't have that mango, you won't feel good. You can apply that example to another human being. Let's say that a human being came by, a stranger, made you laugh and walked away. You just feel a lot of elation happening there, because your body generated a lot of dopamine, a lot of joy. And now what you've done is, because the way the body works, the body associates that person to make you feel that way. That could go for somebody who you have romantic feelings generated for. Is if that person makes you feel connected, then you'll have a romantic feeling towards them. And what's important to realize here is that the romantic connection your joy does not depend on the romantic connection. It becomes very unhealthy and toxic if you feel that the only way I'm going to be happy romantically is to be with him or her. And that is an important distinction to be able to make for yourself, because you are feeling the emotions yourself. They're contained within you, and the other person does not know what you're feeling in the moment unless you share with them. So the step 3 is a very important step, because you allow your senses to fade away. The stimulus that caused this thing is not as important as you actually experiencing this joy and feeling inside of you. And step 4 is to anchor this in so that you can actually recall it in a future moment. So those are the 4 steps. I'm going to take you through those 4 steps right away, so that we can dive right into the practice. We're going to do this for a little longer time. because I want you to really experience the being and fading away the scenes. So I'm going to recap how each step works, and then we're going to go right into the program. So the first one is imagine a personal experience that gives rise to gratitude, appreciation, or feel-good emotions. I'm going to walk you through that. Or you can fantasize about something, a personal experience that you want to have that will give you those feel-good emotions. When I take you through the five senses experience, because this is what the step 2 is, I'm going to ask you, what do you see around you? I'm going to ask you, can you smell? What do you smell around you? I'm going to suggest that you listen intently. There might be sounds of birds, of crickets. Maybe you're at night in the woods camping, and you hear this wonderful crickets. What do you taste? Maybe there's a buffet laid out for you, or maybe there's a fruit tree. That's my favorite. Fruit trees are my favorite. Whatever's on that tree, I'm going to eat. It doesn't matter how tart it is. I have to try it. That's my thing. So for you, what is your thing about tantalizing the taste buds? Because you want to immerse yourself into that. What sensations do you feel when you explore the scene through touch? You want to go around touching things appropriately, of course, but touching, trees and nature, and maybe feeling the water or the ocean, or diving deep into the ocean and having a full body sensation of feel, of physical feel. Of everything. If you are there with a pet, you want to feel and touch the pet. If you're there with your romantic partner, you want to feel and touch each other in a gentle, loving manner, of course, and things like that. So I want to take you through the five senses experience, and then step 3 is I'm going to guide you through slowly fading away the picture around you. And this is perhaps a difficult way to do this, or a difficult practice, because sometimes you don't want to let go. And that's telling quite a bit. If you do not want to let go of the individual, perhaps in this scene, in case you have an individual in that scene that gives you joy, if you do not want to let go of that individual will not fade away. But it's very important that you practice. Be gentle with yourself, but do practice to get this particular image to actually fade away slowly, and allow it to just go into that darkness, and all you're left with is love and joy in your heart. That's all. Okay, and that's important. Step 4 is to anchor this. And it's very important that once you experience this emotion, is to connect with the emotion and say, this is what I want to feel, this or better. Anytime I recall it, I want this to be available to me to recall. Now, a little foreshadowing for next week. We're going to actually when we create this emotion again, and we will, we're going to actually send it to our future. Okay. And this is there's a lot of anecdotal experience that I've had that I can share with you, where I've done this in the past and it has worked. And this is because your energy field around you is multidimensional. There's a lot of science behind that. So all we're doing is we're using the knowledge that we know that this energy field that we're creating, the magnetic field around us, is multidimensional. We're just using that to create a storage cloud of these amazing field of energy that you can tap into at any time. And I want to share that with you for next week. But for now, in this case, we want to anchor this into our system so that we can recall it in the future. All right. So let us now begin to dive for joy. So you can close your eyes on this practice, of course, and I'll walk you through it. And this is something that you want to be comfortable around. Make sure your clothes are not tight. You're undisturbed while you practice this. Close your eyes, of course. Take a deep breath, and I'm going to walk you through this. So let us now begin by first placing our awareness in the area of the heart. Let us begin right there. We're going to start by doing practice 1, and then we're going to move into the next level. So let's start by practice 1, placing our awareness in the area of the heart. taking very slow, very deep breaths. And imagine these breaths are flowing in and out of your heart, very slowly, very gently, and very mindfully. Just feel your chest expand as you draw these breaths into your heart. And feel the chest release as you exhale and experience these breaths flowing out of your heart. 5 seconds to breathe in, 5 seconds to breathe out, or whatever's most comfortable for you. And now imagine an experience, a personal experience that gives rise to gratitude, appreciation, or any feel-good emotions, or fantasize about something in the future that would give you this experience of an amazing emotion that you can just feel, and your heart smiles, and your face smiles, and every cell in your body is smiling. Something is happening out there that makes you feel tremendous, makes you feel joy, and an intensity of joy that is just pure and amazing, that you don't want to get out of that feeling. It's an amazing feeling. Experience that right now. Now take a look around while you're immersed in that scene. Put yourself in that scene. And now I want you to take a view, 360-degree view, slowly rotate and just experience what's around you. And as you approach your starting point of rotation, choose a direction and let's explore what's in that direction. And when you do that, as you start walking towards that direction, you will begin to hear sounds. What are you listening to? What sounds are you hearing? Suddenly you smell something, your smelling capability opens up. And now you're listening and smelling, and it's just beautiful. What are you smelling? And how does it make you feel? Does it enhance your joyful experience? How does the listening and the smelling join together? And as your eyes are already open, you're seeing things and you're experiencing things through your sight, your smell, your hearing. It's a wonderful, multi-dimensional experience. And as you walk through this scene, are the sights changing? And is each change of scenery creating even more joy in your heart? Are there different textures of smell that you're experiencing, a buffet of smell that you're experiencing as you move down this particular path? Perhaps you're moving through a meadow where you're sensing different types of flowers that give rise to different smell. Perhaps there's a bee that you hear that's pollinating these flowers. What are you hearing? Is there something in there that you want to taste? Move towards that. And before you pick that up to taste it, smell it. Allow that smell sense to really experience that joy of that particular item. And now taste it. What does it taste like? And as you hold it in your hands, whatever the item is, how do you feel it? What does it feel like? And now I want you to continue on that path. I want you to go anywhere in that scene, explore everywhere, and I want you to experience with all of the senses at the same time and just bask in that joy. And each experience will elevate the level of joy. And now, as you're in that heightened emotional state, I want you to, in your mind's eye, begin to slowly close your eye. Close your eyes. Begin to slowly close your eyes. And watch the sight fade away completely so that it's darkness. All you have are your other four senses. And now begin to release any items you're holding and release the sense of touch. You're no longer feeling anything to your touch, but your emotions are still there. You're still experiencing elevated emotions. You're just releasing that external stimulus. And I want you to slowly imagine that your ears are no longer able to function and all the sounds around you are slowly diminishing to a point where you no longer hear anything other than my voice, and you no longer experience anything other than the emotions that you experience right now. If you have any other senses that are alive, any of the five senses, this is the time to now slowly release them and only hear my voice and only experience the emotions that are being generated in your body. And now I will also remove my voice, and I want you to keep the emotions and generate those emotions, and I'll keep those emotions alive as heightened as you can. And now set the anchor. Give intention to your body to anchor this emotion in and to be able to recall it on demand without an external stimulus. Speak to your body. And now slowly open your eyes. Continue the deep breaths. Beautiful. And just allow yourself to continue to feel that emotional vibration in your body. Just check in with yourself in your entire body and see where you're at in terms of your feel-good emotion. That scene has disappeared, but you are already experiencing the benefits of the emotions that you have created. That is an example of creating and diving for joy from within. One of the things that I'd like to share with you is to practice this particular exercise, diving for joy. And I encourage you to do this. When you are, perhaps you may, but if you do struggle with fading the scene away and closing off your senses, let's say, for example, and you experience a difficulty in doing that, let's say if you succeed for about 30 seconds and then it comes right back because your joy factor, your emotions have gone down because the stimulus has gone away. Perfectly normal. And there's an approach that I'd like you to incorporate into your practice as you go through the actual meditation, which you will have, of course, you will have access to and go back and replay it. If, for example, you experience your emotions dropping when the sensories fade away, bring the sensories back in, bring the scene back in, and raise your emotions, and then allow and practice fading your scene away, and keep doing that until it's longer and longer between your ability to sustain your emotions without the sensory or the outside stimulus. Okay, so I suggest that is a practice you do to try and train your body, and then you can recall these emotions of joy and gratitude on demand without having to rely on something external to you. Okay, so our practice is to practice this diving for joy with a suggestion for if you're not able to keep the emotions elevated, then go back and bring the scene back in. The second thing I'd like you to do is, as you practice this technique, as you experience life in this particular week, I'd like you to kind of pay attention to situations that give you rise to feel good emotions. Because what we want to do is we want to take that and actually store it in a vault somewhere. So basically what we want to do is we want to have that information available to tap into anytime we're feeling down. Because when we're feeling down, it's not easy to experience joy and appreciation, because if by thinking about, okay, where did I feel this last time, and then recalling it, what you want to do is you want to have a basket of scenarios that gives you joy and appreciation, and you will experience those. When you actually move through life, you'll experience those, and you say, I got to lock this in the vault. And then you lock it in the vault for later recall, and then you do the same diving for joy practice. So keep a tool chest of all these amazing kind of events that cause you, that are outside stimulus that cause you joy from within, so you can continue to practice this until you no longer need that tool, that you will live every moment in joy, so that every experience will have joy with it. So your toolbox will not be required, because you will not have a moment where you will not experience joy. All right. Yeah, there will be ups and downs, but it won't be long. The downs will not last as long as the ups. So that's your practice for the week. And next lesson is called Joy Factor Part 3, Embodying Joy. This is where we go a bit more metaphysical. This is where we look at how multidimensional our energy field is. Some of this, a little bit of science behind that, not too much though, sharing with you what are some of the evidence out there that shows that the human biology actually exudes multidimensional fields. We'll talk about that next week. All right. For now, I want to thank you for taking part in this particular program, and I look forward to connecting with you in the next lesson. Remember, take a week before you get to the next lesson and do the practice exercises to get the most out of this program. Take care for now.